Hello and welcome everybody to this podcast, The Future of Web. So, this is a podcast or show about Web3 technologies. The intention of this is to educate people to increase understanding and wider adoption of this technology. So, here we discuss the current state of Web3 and how different personnel, like be a founder, investor, developer, marketer, designer, community manager, are impacting this space through their product or service. Hello and say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon which part of the world you're joining in from. I am Alek, the host of this show, and I'm the founder of Animo Solution, which is a Web3 services company. We help companies transition from Web2 to Web3 pretty easily, and we do a lot of things in blockchain and metaverses. So you can check our website for it. Now, so coming back to the show, we today, like about the guest, we have someone who has been coding like really well since the age of 13, and he is somebody who now runs a company called Wavect.io, based out of Austria, which specializes in smart contracts and DApps, that's decentralization applications. So he's also an advisor, speaker. He does workshops on blockchain, and he speaks German and English pretty fluently, and does a whole lot of other things. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Kevin Riedl. Hi,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Hi. Hey, thanks for the invitation. Hi. Thanks everyone for watching. Really
Yeah,
looking forward to that discussion. And
thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming in. I know you have busy and you're scaling up your organization really well. So, thank you so much for bringing in and coming in and taking out some time. Thank you
likewise.
again.
Yeah.
Cool, pleasure. So, as is customary, we usually start with a question which we ask you, like, what is it that gets you started every morning? What is it that gets you up every morning?
I love that question. Um, yeah, basically, that's something that I think a lot about, and my answer changes or changed over time, all over
Hmm.
again. But right now, it's mostly about giving something back, you know, which means I don't just want to scale my company to grow to earn a lot of money, which is great. Yeah, don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. That's why we are a company. But in the end, you actually want to look back in life and think, well, I did some pretty cool stuff that impacted people that, you know, did something with them, you know?
Yeah, interesting. Very nicely put. And that's
What
something which
about you?
resonates with me.
Sorry,
Oh, same thing. Resonates with me. Yes,
love it.
I have big ambitions, and I want to, like grow and make a successful company which has a lot of money, which is actually funding my social initiatives. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the key reasons why I started this company. Yes, apart from being independent, being your own boss and trying to plug the challenges which
Mm-hmm.
I see, and fill those gaps. But the other main driving force for me is build a company, build a growth engine which can fill in my social initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, so I
Mm,
mean that's what gets me up every morning.
love it. I'm just out of curiosity. You know, I know you have your schedule for that. But
No, no,
what are your social initiatives? Just
yeah,
you know.
okay. Cool. So see, one is there are two, three primarily. One I have is around food distribution. So like I come from India, and there are a lot of challenges. Like there's a different types of people who cannot have let's say 3 meals a day. So what I try and
Mm-hmm.
do is try and organize certain food initiatives. So we're either from my pocket or collectively we go ahead and distribute food. I want to make it a regular affair which has its own sales engine as well. So I'm working on the project, but like handling multiple things. So that's one initiative. Second is around disability. So like even yesterday, whenever you have, uh, there's a lot of disabled people. Like again, being India being a big country, so there's the number is a little higher maybe. So what we do is we give them, a prosthetic, some arm or leg or calipers. So there are support.
Wow.
So even yesterday, like I gave a couple of calipers to somebody who is a paralytic patient, so he cannot
Mhm.
stand on his feet, right? So it was my
Wow.
mother's idea rather, for yesterday, but yeah, so we went there. So that's second. The third is around education. My motive of
Wow.
starting this podcast and a lot of other initiatives that I do, I go to colleges, talk about this, is around education. Once the education is taken care of, most of the other things are taken care of. So
Wow.
these
I
are
love it.
my three driving social initiatives, but obviously, can't focus them full time because you have to run a company, business, whatever. So this becomes my revenue generating like model, the business, and the other becomes more like social.
I love it.
Cool.
Hey, that's super cool. Hmm.
Thank you. It sounded like, it's the other way around, like I'm the guest on your
Hey,
podcast.
man,
It
it's
sounded
fine.
like,
It's a discussion. I don't want to
yeah,
give an interview. I want to talk
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome.
No, thank you so much. And absolutely, you're the first one who's asked me that. No one has asked me that before. Cool. So thank you again. Cool. So that's about me. So let's get to know you a little bit now. So something, like which is not there in the public domain. Like this, nobody knows. These are very, very few people know about my initiatives. What is something about you that?
Uh, well, I we are all about education too, right? If you looked at my LinkedIn and see the things that we do, um, for example, we try to do around 2 to 5 podcasts per week. Um, with
Wow.
That's really a lot of effort. We might scale a little bit down to focus a little bit more on other things, but in general, what most people don't really know is we actually want to bring that to the next level. I don't want to exactly say already how that might look like, but what I can say is we already did it, and yeah, we basically just want to scale it, which is we want to educate a certain target group. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Interesting.
if you would ask me in
So
2 months, I could give you a better answer.
sure. Okay. So I take that as a point to get in touch again on a live in 2 months, right? Obviously, we'll keep chatting, on different platforms, but yes, let's tell the world what you do as
Not
well.
really satisfying answer. Sorry for that, but
No, no,
you
that's
know
fine.
how it
It's
is.
absolutely, like you are, like it's an open platform. You can share what you feel comfortable at this point in time, and then we'll, leaves a hook. That's the way I see it for future
Awesome.
discussions. All right, interesting. So that's one journey from education, right? But why did you leave, your development background, so for what I've understood, you doing a good career, enjoying that space, from development, being a developer, to web3, may not be a massive shift for you being a developer, but why is why I want to know.
Um, well, I was always drawn to bleeding edge technologies.
Mm-hmm.
I had a long time where I tried just everything, which
Mm-hmm.
has advantages and many disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I got approached for a blockchain startup and joined that at some point. And it really, if you really try to understand why does blockchain exist, what kind of use cases, like real use cases, can stand
Mm-hmm.
behind that, then you recognize that's something that's definitely here to stay. And it has a strong bleeding edge vibe, and I really just enjoy it. People are much more open, it's fun, it's uh not corporate like, not that much yet at least. And yeah, it's just a fun space to be in and to grow.
Interesting. So what fun have you had so far with it? Let's put it that way.
Well, I think everyone who is, or most people that were in crypto, had some kind of trades that were went a little bit more unexpected.
Yeah.
in both directions probably. And
Yeah.
yeah, just being in communities, um, yeah, interacting with others, and the spirit, that sick work ethic that people put in. Everything is
Hmm.
so incredibly fast paced. I'm in constant FOMO, even now in the bear market, even more actually,
Yeah.
because people build useful things.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's basically.
Mm. Yeah. It's interesting you bringing out FOMO here, because every day, there's a new group forming, which has, founders, developers, investors, community managers, primarily,
Yeah.
in different groups, and they're all building amazing products. At least from the looks of it, it seems everybody's building such nice products. So what would you do more to stand out? You know.
I think the most important thing in the whole crypto space, and we are getting better now at that, also
Hmm.
considering the space as a whole,
Hmm.
is requirements engineering and validating use cases. Right?
Hmm.
There's so many, sorry for the word, bullshit use cases out there,
Hmm.
and let's say products that nobody wants or needs,
Hmm. Hmm.
and usually it's super easy, yeah, to validate a product before actually building it. But
Hmm.
instead, people rather raise money, start building. And I think the largest reason for that is that many people that enter the space are usually, or let's say, tend to be not the most experienced ones.
Hmm.
And that's probably the reason why they do all these startup, first time founder mistakes, and
Hmm.
that somewhat, uh, let's say, shapes the space in a negative way. But we're getting
Yeah.
better now, and that's, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, so if you take from the business angle, so if, say the developers or the company founders were going through a FOMO of making something and putting it out there without actually validating use cases, I think it was the same with the investors as well, because it's a new industry. Not
Yeah.
many people knew about, how it's going to turn out. So anybody who had a decent understanding of technology and some money started investing left, right, and center, right? And that's why, and when somebody loses money, eventually, it's a world which is run on money. So when somebody loses money, it is bound to associate and attract negative press. No.
True that. From an investor's perspective, I don't consider that that negative, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, because usually when you're an investor, you
Mm-hmm.
invest in, let's say, 100 or 10 startups, and one maybe goes somewhere. And
Yeah.
for sure, you also put some decent amount of money in new technologies such as blockchain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, and it's
Mm.
easy to get exit liquidity in blockchains. So that's
Yeah, that's
another reason.
easy. Yeah. Cool. No, it's interesting, so how it works. So let's come back, to understand. So how is what you're building under Wave Act, like smart contracts? Why is
Mhm.
it something that you chose? Like development could be anything. You could build DeFi apps or dApps, but why smart contracts?
Well, we have a big collection of different clients, basically, from
Mm-hmm.
protocols such as a social endorsement protocol called Quiver, a layer two
Mm-hmm.
optimistic rollup called BOA, to
Mm-hmm.
DAOs, NFT collections, even security tokens, uh, and doing courses with, let's say, organizations such as Inevitable,
Mm-hmm.
if you know him, Thiago.
Oh yeah, yeah, Tiago Amaral. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, we are already quite broad in that specific domain.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as said, crypto blockchain is just an awesome space to be in. Smart contracts are always exciting. Deploying on mainnet,
Yeah.
meaning that you need to actually do some good requirements engineering, some a lot of tests, like good test-driven development, where you know
Yeah.
the smart contract behaves in a way that you
Yeah.
expect it to,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you basically need to focus a lot more on performance, security, and quality code, and that what makes the space or smart contracts itself for me so exciting, that you don't have these Friday afternoon deployments as some companies do. And yeah, that always got me a little bit angry, with that,
Yeah.
let's say, bad project management and deadlines and everything. And in blockchain,
Yeah.
you're forced to some extent, to
Yeah.
create better code and to do all that stuff in a better way.
Yeah, because there's no turning back. There's no turning back. Once it's on the mainnet, it's on the mainnet. You can't do anything about it,
Yeah.
right? Oh, it's actually interesting. No, but it's funny, like Ethereum was launched in 2014, right? So smart contracts were introduced on Ethereum. They were not there on the initial Bitcoin blockchain, right?
Hmm.
So when you decided to go ahead and full into smart contracts, and even till say 2 or 3 years ago in 2018, late 2018, somewhere around 2019, it smart contract was not something that was in a general public discussion, at least even in the Web3 industry. So how did you know that taking this route of blockchain, like did you see any telltale signs were there on Ethereum that smart contracts would blow up to a level where they would have a massive utility?
Well, one just needs to think about blockchain itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure, blockchain enables you to transfer value in
Mm-hmm.
hopefully some kind of trustless way.
Mm-hmm.
And smart contracts now enable you to set up some custom rules
Mm-hmm.
for value or for transactions in general,
Yeah.
for actions basically that you want to save or, let's say, have somewhere in your applications. And for me, it was somewhat of a, it's a no-brainer actually. But I have to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, I didn't jump in with my company all in at that time. We
Mm-hmm.
did a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but as a business person, you always observe. Where does it go? Is there enough demand for things? And then
Mm-hmm.
you adapt. Try, adapt, fail,
Yeah,
retry.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the good part with you, like mentioned, was there were customers reaching out to you, so you did not really have to have a scale sales engine to go out and tell people what you do, right?
yeah.
So that was, I think, kind of beneficial for you when you were starting up, right?
Well, I didn't have that in the beginning, actually. It was more out of necessity, to
Mm-hmm.
build that inbound engine.
Yeah.
We do a tiny, 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 tiny bit of outbound already. We have
Mm-hmm.
somewhere that supports us here.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, everything is inbound through branding, giving value all over the place.
Yeah.
And yeah, right now we
It's
are, let's say, more than enough.
yeah, it's good. So you are bootstrapped, right? You're not funded. You're
Fully
bootstrapped.
bootstrapped. Yeah.
Ah,
What about you?
fantastic. Same, so we
Awesome.
started, so like bootstrapped going in. So ours also, we also don't have an outbound sales engine. Like I'm from a design and a technology background. So I did not
Hmm.
really understand, like that sales. It's an important piece, but
Hmm.
and in the beginning you can't have a, like a player sales guy, right? Can't have. So the only interaction is you talk to people, they talk to people, then you get some opportunities, you talk to them, and I think it's a
Yeah.
similar way how both of us are kind of doing right now.
Yeah, 100%. People buy from other people that they like and then
Yeah.
trust. And if
Yeah.
you fulfill these two, you won. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you have some testimonials to go with it, they're definitely very helpful.
Yeah. Would be great,
That's
especially in crypto. Yeah.
oh yes, when trusting, and it's very important, right?
Yeah.
So it's been so couple of years running the company now. So how's the journey been? Like say from the point of when you got to know about Web3, there is something called as Web3, right? To
Hmm.
now, how has the journey been? Let's understand, from a founder's perspective.
I think you can, or I'm sure you can relate, but I would say saying or stating it was a roller coaster is not really an exaggeration, but it's
Yeah.
actually 100% the case and true.
Yeah.
From almost running out of money, standing there, transferring money between my bank accounts so that I can cover all my expenses to wow, what's going on now, and just setting up, systems, processes, starting from simple things like tax, insurance, things like that, to
Mm-hmm.
building a team, building a cool culture where people have some vision and motivation to do some cool and amazing stuff, to um, evaluating what does actually work, right?
Yeah.
Getting customers to, doing what I do on social media with podcasts, multiple posts per day, shorts and everything, and basically, yeah, up a lot of ups and downs, many projects that failed, a lot of
Yeah.
failed projects, and yeah, let's see what happens with the next one.
Oh yeah, it's actually interesting. I can totally see when you were saying all of that. I can totally see. Like you're just a little ahead. When starting the journey, right? You started 2 years ago. I started about 10 months ago,
Awesome.
eight
Hey,
months ago.
congrats, mate.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you.
that's super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
deep dive, like into this in March of this year,
hmm
right? So it's about 7 8 months.
it's a process, you
Yeah.
know. You
Absolutely.
and yeah, in the end, there are not that many actual experts in the space, so that's the awesome part about it. You can
Yeah.
enter, and you quickly are able to provide serious value.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best part. It's super inclusive, and yeah, just love it.
Oh, it's absolutely, absolutely. And thank you, for sharing all that candidly, like, which is amazing. So what are you building under Wave? So let's, try and understand what are you building in Web3. So now you made that transition, you're here, and you have these experiences. So what are you building for the world? Is let's just know that.
Um, well, right now we are mostly just like you, a Web3 software agency working with other companies, building their products actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as mentioned before, from protocols, NFTs, token styles, to even architecture stuff like layer twos. Um, but in the end, we want to become a product business, and that product has to provide some kind of impact. That was the education project I was talking about earlier, and it's not
Yeah.
just one of those 100s of web-free educational platforms. There's so many. don't and
Yes.
I also don't want to be one of those, let's say, founders that say we are building the first ever something, because if it's actually a good idea, someone already did it,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen it yet. So let's see. And the feedback was awesome. Basically, as said, teaching a tiny group of uh, a tiny target group, as mentioned, and creating a course out of it. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
main idea, basically. So
Mhm.
the only secret now is the partners that we already have, and what kind of target group that is.
Oh,
So
oh,
basically,
fantastic! No, cool. So if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if I can. One of your posts was mentioning about like a small group of kids, and taught them blockchain. I saw the post, and it was super awesome. I read their feedback, which you had mentioned in a post on LinkedIn. By the way, viewers, please go ahead and connect with Kevin on LinkedIn, and he's super. I know he's busy, but he will always take out time. If you have questions, go ahead and ask him. right?
Thanks,
But be
mate.
mindful of his time, right? Like, yeah, that's very important.
uh, all good, mate.
Yeah. No,
um,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was super awesome, like having kids, like 10, 12, 14
Hmm.
years old at that from the post, because it's a public domain. I'm bringing it up, right? And then talking about and teaching them some things on Web3.
It actually was crazy, right? It was a 1 week's course, and
Mm-hmm.
in the first, let's say, in the morning, I did a lot of storytelling. Why does blockchain exist? We even talked about inflation and everything,
Yeah.
scams and things like that. Kids got super excited. Their
Yeah.
eyes are lit up, and I saw, oh, that's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah.
And in the afternoon and the next day, we basically talked, or let's say looked how to actually build a smart contract. How does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
How does it work?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 days, they had time to build their own smart contracts and present
Wow.
it to their parents and some other people in a big hall.
Wow. Yeah.
And the crazy part is, for sure, with a lot of support. It's 1 week,
Mm-hmm.
but all of them either had an NFT collection that worked, had
Wow.
a security token with liquidity added,
Okay.
and on testnet, all good.
Yeah, yeah, obviously. Not on the main net, because the gas fees would have, kind of, you know, yeah,
Yeah, I would be more worried about regulatory or legal aspects.
yeah.
And some even built lotteries, one
Mm-hmm.
project or two projects, even with a DApp. Wow.
Okay.
I didn't even teach them that. They did it
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Wow.
And yeah, just crazy. The lottery was completely self-taught. Those two or
Okay.
three projects, I basically just taught them how to build the NFT and token, and the
Uh-huh.
rest was,
Their own imagination, their own effort.
yeah. It's crazy because for sure you would do an on-chain lottery a different way with oracles
Yeah.
and so on, but it's crazy that they understood blockchain, the use case that well, that a lottery is actually an amazing and totally
Actually,
valid use
yes.
case.
It's a big use case because, so that there's no fudging of funds, there's no, like backtracking of numbers. And I did not think of it. Like I'm running an agency and I could not think of lottery as a use case for it.
Yeah, it's nothing that you can easily build as a company, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot
Yeah.
of legal aspects.
Legal aspects needs to be there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, no,
but
it's fun, must have been real fun. So,
yeah,
wow.
it
So I
was.
see- I see, out of that group, you could have, like future people joining you, or you could be an advisor to them, once they get to that legal age of having companies and stuff like that.
Well, they're 10 to 15-year-olds. I
Ah.
doubt that they will found a startup in the next few years.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But well,
Cool. But it must have been good experience teaching them.
100%. One was even that good. One of the
Hmm.
kids that developed a lottery, that really that incredible that I want to hire him, until that my I didn't think that through until my, I think it was the tax advisor or accountant told sent me an email with, let's say, 10 exclamation marks. Hey, well, way too young, what is it called? Child labor, basically.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think of that. That kid was so self-taught and knew what they want to build and do,
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
thought I need that kid to work with me. But in the end, I need to
He
wait
can't.
1 more year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Till the time he reached that legal age, so that
Yeah.
there's no. And it's actually very funny, like the way I'm seeing it right now, is that there are a lot of opportunities which these kids could hold on to, right? And if you see, in sports, a lot of kids join at a much younger age than 18. Like in India, it's legal age to work is 18. uh, So they join much earlier. They become, super good at what they do, and they make tons of money because, when you play a professional game, you get money. Somehow, why is that not allowed? In a regular business, like a regular agency or business or work. Like if it's allowed in sports, obviously you're representing a country, then it's a bigger stakes at bigger things at stake. But that's a question I've not been able to answer.
Well, I think it's totally understandable, right? As a founder or in general, let's say a boss or like in best case a leader, um, you have a lot of power, and
Hmm.
kids under a certain age in Austria it's below 15,
Yeah.
and that kid was 14. They
Okay.
don't, even after that age, and even adults oftentimes have an issue with standing up for themselves, and
Yeah.
I think it's mostly because of that,
Yeah.
and possibly
Oh no,
also
I agree.
parents.
Like it is to
Yeah.
prevent them from exploitation and like all those things. But if you
Yeah.
have the skill available, I don't know. Like some systems should come into the place maybe, which benefits everybody.
Yeah, 100%. There are some ways, at least in Austria,
Hmm.
for a summer job or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think it
Interesting.
depends where you
Cool.
are.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, cool. So, so from being a like a company which deals in smart contracts, like smart contracts are big now. Like they've scaled up. Anything that you want to do, especially in NFT cases, is on smart contracts. And now even metaverses, because when you have financial transactions, if I want to sell something in a metaverse, I'll have a smart contract. So how would you view projects from that, like say maybe an NFT project and a metaverse project? How would you differentiate which blockchain to use? Because the driving language is different. For Ethereum, it's Solidity. For something, it's Rust and the likes, right? So how do you differentiate,
Mhm.
or how do you approach it rather?
That's a great question. In general, it depends on a lot of different factors,
Hmm.
starting with your use case, how many transactions do you have to do? What kind of transactions? If it's a lottery, you want that to be maximum trustless, for example.
Hmm.
If it's just
Hmm.
a tiny transaction, a microtransaction during a game or something, maybe
Hmm.
it's not that important. And
Hmm.
because there are a lot more transactions, gas fees become more significant and more important.
Hmm. Hmm.
And secondly, the target group itself. Right?
Hmm.
On Ethereum, there's most volume, most money. That's the reason why most NFT collections and DAOs and so on launch there, because it's
Hmm.
easier to raise funds.
Hmm.
The ecosystem is larger, and people don't have that UX issue to bridge their funds to a layer two sidechain like Polygon or
Hmm.
something like that. So, from a UX and volume, like how much funds are there perspective, most people still go and will continue to go for Ethereum. Sorry, for Ethereum. Also because Ethereum is still, no matter if you have optimistic or now validity rollups coming up, still the most trustless smart contract platform out there, even though with proof of stake now and having that
Hmm.
censorship debate with the validators and everything with Tornado Cash right now.
Yeah.
From a relative point of view, I would still say in relation to the amount of funds, like the
Hmm.
attractiveness to censor it versus uh, actually being censored or centralized, it's on a good start. We just need to get past that. From if you're, let's say, target group is the more novel or newer user, less experienced, you definitely
Hmm.
want to go for a layer two with some kind
L2, yeah.
of fiat on ramp where you get directly your funds from a credit card to your wallet. So no bridging, nothing like that. Um, because for them it isn't a difference, from Ethereum to layer two, because they usually don't have funds on Ethereum, so it doesn't matter to them. It's everything is new anyway, So
Yeah.
yeah,
They would want to, pay less for transaction, like less gas fees and stuff like that. Yeah,
genau.
faster transactions.
Yeah, just try to understand your mother that you just paid $100 for a single transaction. So, what?
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I know. There was a joke. Like I'm not exactly getting the number. Say for a $2 transaction, somebody had to pay $200 for as gas fees at the point in time when it was on proof of work and not on POS,
Yeah.
right? Exam. So yeah,
Yep.
it's interesting. And how do you differentiate? Like let's take this a little forward. So I've built a project on say Ethereum now, right? And we are doing POS and everything is in place. Now I want to transition it to say another blockchain, right? I see that after building it up, after like before or maybe after putting it on mainnet,
Okay.
I want to take yeah let's and now I see from a business use case, it's not as beneficial to me as it was on the papers while I was building it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way, or how would you like transition it say from one blockchain to the other? Could be from L1 to L2, L2 to L1, vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would start from the business angel as well. Do you, what's the, let's say, value that you want to create with that? Is it just to be on different blockchains? Then
Mm-hmm.
it's actually not that difficult, right? You just deploy your smart contracts there, and depending on what kind of features you need, it shouldn't be an issue usually.
Mm-hmm.
The problem arises when you want to have some kind of interaction between those two protocols or
Mm-hmm.
directly bridging, I don't know, NFTs or tokens or whatsoever. Then it gets
Mm-hmm.
more complex, right? There are a lot of bridges out there, but oftentimes you might need something more custom because you just want to send some kind of a message
Yeah.
to the other chain and react there somewhat in some kind of
Yeah.
manner. So there are ways, for example, layer zero and protocols like that. I think you're familiar with it anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
in the end, everything that, a blockchain wasn't made to interact with other blockchains. That's why
Yeah.
we see all these bridge hacks all the time.
Bridges coming in. Yeah.
So if you don't need it and you just think it's cool, avoid it because
Yeah.
it can destroy your business.
Yeah.
Um, because all these technologies, layer zero and co, they don't even exist for a year most of the time, like layer zero specifically now. Even though they are amazing, I love layer zero, but yeah, it should be here for at least 5 years with billions of funds secured and at least fixed security issues if there were some.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And because so you see most of the new projects which are coming in are mostly driven on L2. Like they're built on L2. Easier gas fees, like so less gas fees, easier to build, easier to transact, and bridges on L2 would work primarily more efficiently,
Hmm.
supposedly, you know. So that's a way of doing it. I think one of the other challenges, like you brought up smart contracts and NFTs, is burning of NFTs. For example, so now I'm getting a human angle error. So I want to mint an NFT, right? And
Hmm.
then it's say about a 10 piece NFTs, 10 pieces, right? Instead of say one group one, I put in group two, right? Which is totally different. I was not supposed to mint that. It's a human error, I
Hmm.
because at the end NFTs are what? Images before they actually become utilities, right? So instead
Hmm.
of A, I put in B. Now it is there, it's on the mainnet, it's minted. There's no way to burn it, right? I like right now the way of burning it through an interface is to put it on a address which is not being used, something like that, right? So have you come up with such a problem, or has somebody come up to you with such a problem and you found a like a solution for this?
Uh, so just from my understanding, your
Mm-hmm.
problem or your, let's say, business case or perspective now is if someone mints an NFT by accident because one implemented the constraints not the right manner, but you already deployed it and communities on
Yes.
there,
Yes.
well, it's a smart contract, right? If you didn't add a rule that you're able to burn it directly, because you
Hmm.
can, if you add a function for that, for example, or have some kind of other functionality, such as Board Ape Yacht Club. They have some kind of function where you can, I think, delete the image, for example, from that stolen NFT and mint a new one or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but could be that they froze that functionality because there was some FUD this year. But in general, a smart contract is a set of rules enforced by the blockchain. If you didn't add a rule that you can burn uh, as a project owner, then you can't. If and that's a powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
Giving ownership power to the user.
Yeah.
That's what the original idea of blockchain was.
Hmm.
And well, if a larger corporation possibly they have that, let's say, urgency to have more control anyway,
Yeah.
then you probably will add these kind of rules to your smart contract, and then you're able to
Yeah.
do these things.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so that's a challenge. What especially because when you have human interaction, you cannot have one cannot have everything automated. So you have human interaction. So instead of image one, it's a very very basic thing. But in a real scenario, it's like you're doing a post, right? Or I'm doing a post, and instead of with the content, I put in the wrong image, and I want to edit it. So
yeah.
even I can't do that. So that's a very small but a big challenge for people, and it could be on a rareable site or a rare site, which takes about 40-50 dollars just for minting it easily. So it's an interesting problem, I think, to solve. Cool. All right. So how do you think, like in your experience now you running company, you have people coming out to you. How do you see the view of Web3 changing in people's perception? Earlier, it was all cryptos, very negative, scams, rug pulls, wash trading, like these are fancy words, but these were happening. And now,
Mhm.
like in this beer, sort of beer time right now.
um, well, it changes all the time. What I
Hmm.
see is, well, we have all seen that hype around NFTs. It's still
Yeah.
there at some point, it got way less, but it's still there. And we just saw a lot of non-technical people flowing into the space, which is awesome, from
Hmm.
artists to marketers, growth marketers, all kinds of people, a lot more business people. That's great. So I
Yeah.
think the overall perception is definitely improving. And
Hmm.
what I also can see, and that excites me a little bit. I'm invested and working with, also in traditional finance startup as well. That's
Okay.
where we built a product in the past, and we had organized a conference in Frankfurt
Hmm.
2 days ago. I
Hmm.
got back yesterday, and there were a lot of, let's say, super experienced and, from bankers, you know, all kinds of people. I think
Yeah.
you can imagine. And
Yeah.
I was probably one of the youngest there, if not the youngest. And the thing that excited me was there was one distributed ledger talk from the legal point of view.
Hmm.
And the people that I talked with, they were pitching blockchain to me. Traditional finance people that actually know how stuff works. And
Yeah.
they say to me, hey, DeFi will disrupt the whole traditional finance industry. They are convinced. You know, 2 years ago, it was the complete other way around. Nobody
Yeah.
believed you. Everyone thought it's a scam.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
they are coming to me and say, that's the future. So, uh, well, it changed a
It
lot.
must have been very interesting, on that side, listening and people coming in, without sharing what you do, but listening,
Yeah.
how people are. It's in fact, yesterday somebody from Polygon shared a video where somebody from a big banking corporation, like a credit
Mm-hmm.
card company, is explaining how their credit card, it's one of the topmost in the world, can
Mm-hmm.
help you do transactions through their card on crypto, like NFTs, trust. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
So, which means, like the big guys are kind of waking up to it. They're investing. Obviously, we all know, all big people are investing heavily into it. So, I think that's a good sign to come,
Yeah,
right?
100%. A lot of things are going on right now. It's, as said, a lot of FOMO uh, on my on my end at least.
Yeah. No, it's actually very interesting. No, cool, Kevin. So I think we're coming up right at the top of the hour. I just have a couple of ender questions or other
Sure.
things I want to see from your perspective. Say, what's your outlook on Web3 growth? Sitting today, like in whatever the market conditions are and the external environment is, what is your outlook? Say it's positive, negative, neutral. One word out of the three.
Positive. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in there. Let's put it that way.
Fantastic. And I have yet to find somebody who says it's negative. People are saying neutral or mostly
Mm-hmm.
positive. I'm yet to find somebody who says it negative. So that's like a good sign to come,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Sure.
And thank you. And one or two critical advices for people, getting into Web3 space right now, like primarily students or beginners, fresh out of college.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a big fan of, let's say, Know Your Why. That's from Simon Sinek, if
Yeah,
I recall correctly.
yeah,
Know why you want to enter Web3. Is it just to earn a lot of money? Well, money as main driver and only driver is a bad approach. That doesn't work long term. You
yeah.
have to have other things on top of your mind. And secondly, if you're a software developer and want to enter, make sure that you are able to develop Web 2 software, have some experience there. Some people might disagree with me now, but
Hmm.
I think a lot of patterns that worked and still work really, really well in Web 2
Hmm.
need to be applied to Web 3 and really helped us as an agency to do to deliver quality work. Many devs don't even have the ability or know how to do proper requirements engineering, test driven
Yeah.
development. And these are the core pillars or core foundations to build good Web3 software. And yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'll agree with that last point, like test driven development. Because here, the thing is, because the way blockchain is structured, once you put it on mainnet, there's no going back. It's not a code that you could refine and, redo, right? So your initial construction of the whole code and, how you're presenting it, the use case, whether it works or not, needs to be spot on.
Yeah, at least you can't change much, right? There are
Yeah.
parameters, proxy contracts. You can just upload a new version, Uniswap for 2, for free, Wi-Fi. But in the end, as you mentioned, once deployed, forever there, full responsibility, accountability for everything that happens on there. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
decentralization.
Yeah. So that's a good note to end on, that's decentralization. I love the way you said it. Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming
Likewise.
in, sharing this time with you, this valuable knowledge. Thank you, viewers, for coming in. I would want to wish everybody happy weekend as well. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week. Let me just
Thanks.